Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Denise Gary Show. Before we get to the terrorist attack by a Saudi naval student that was there at the Pensacola base in Florida, I want to say to the Trump administration and to all those involved, I understand individuals from the Swiss government were involved in freeing an American, a graduate student, who is now back in the United States and has been invited to the White House. So thank you, President Trump. Again, the number continues to climb in terms of Americans being brought home to the United States of America after being imprisoned overseas in Muslim-dominant countries as well as North Korea. So again, thank you, President Trump, for helping make sure that another American, this time a graduate student that was involved, I understand, in doing research for his dissertation on Eurasia, was imprisoned by Iran for 3 years for spying. So at any rate, thank you again. And I'd like to say, welcome home, Wayne. So let's talk about this terrorist. So I thought the issues surrounding this Saudi gunman who killed 3 Americans at a Pensacola naval station. Apparently, he hosted a dinner in which several of his friends watched several videos of mass shootings of people being killed by jihadists. And I think this is important that we appreciate the fact that what President Trump has tried to do since he campaigned for office in 2016. The President of the United States has worked hard to establish programs in which there was greater amounts of vetting that occurred in embassies around the globe before people were allowed to enter the United States. And I have to ask myself, and I ask all Americans listening to this broadcast, to support the President in his efforts to vet any individuals coming into the country. I heard Secretary of Defense Mark Esper say in an interview over the weekend that he was going to continue to allow foreign students to enter the country to be trained by the Americans, because I understand, and we can all appreciate this, that there are sometimes joint training exercises in which the United States military and the military of foreign governments work together to achieve an objective. Understand that. We all get that. But I do think it's important that the Department of Defense makes it possible for there to be more stringent vetting of individuals coming into the country. So I hope you make that clear to your member of Congress, and I'd appreciate it if you call that congressional member and tell them. You can make a local call to whoever your member of Congress is and your senator around the country and tell them, you know what, you need to make sure that the Department of Defense properly vets individuals coming in from foreign countries, particularly, not meaning to be discriminatory or too politically incorrect, but particularly from Muslim-dominant countries. You say, why would you say that? No, it's not a racist statement. It's a statement based on reality. If we're fighting a war against Islamic terrorism, which I think we can all agree on, I mean, American troops and special forces are in approximately 70 other countries right now, fighting to secure freedom, fighting to secure democracy, doing counterterrorism measures against jihadists that embrace Islam. You say, well, that's phony Islam. I had a student say to me the other day, well, terrorism is not really Islam. Well, that's interesting, because I want to call your attention to a clip. Where is it? Here it is. I want to call your attention to a clip by a Saudi cleric. Now, this individual and his friends were Saudis. And I want you to listen to a clip. Well, you won't be able to, you can hear it, but you'll have to read, the translation. So again, this is from MEMRI, the Middle East Media Research Institute. And the wonderful thing about the Middle East Media Research Institute, MEMRI, is they provide a bridge between the Americans and those from other countries by providing translations to us from Arabic or Urdu or Farsi or Pashto. They provide the translation into English, and I'd like you to hear what the Saudi Cleric has to say. Now, again, I want you to think about this for a moment. Just think, in Saudi Arabia and around the Muslim world, there are Friday evening services every week. There are newspapers and radio broadcasts and television broadcasts. And through all these media outlets, they have clerics that are saying things like this: the desire to shed blood, to smash skulls, and to sever limbs for the sake of Allah is an honor for the Muslim believer. So I'd like you to listen to this clip and then consider why this Saudi national may have decided upon opportunity to come to a naval air station here in the United States to receive training to fly, would decide to start shooting Americans. Let's listen.
فلا شك أن الذي يوفقه الله تعالى لبذل روحه والقتال في سبيل الله تعالى بلا شك أنه على فضل عظيم. والنبي عليه الصلاة والسلام بين أنه لا يجتمع غبار أثير في سبيل الله ودخان جهنم في أنف امرئ أبدا. لا شك أن تعلق النفس بالجهاد في سبيل الله ورغبة النفس لسفك هذا الدم وسحق الجماجم وتقطيع الأجزاء في سبيل الله جل وعلا ودفاعا عن دينه لا شك أنه شرف للمؤمن. وبين الله عز وجل أنه إذا قاتل المرء الكفار لم يستطع الكفار ولم يحدثوا أنفسهم أصلا بأن يأتوا ويقاتلوا. وما تجرأت اليوم والله دول الكفر سواء من أمريكا ومن حلفائها ما تجرأوا على قتال المسلمين واغتصاب نسائهم وترميلهن وما يوقعون على الإسلام والمسلمين كل يوم الآخر من الإفساد والتقتيل. ما تجرأوا على ذلك إلا لما رأوا المسلمين أصلا ما فكروا أن يفتحوا بلدانهم ولا أن يقاتلوهم. الآيات الواردة في القتال للكفار وفتح البلدان فإما أن يدخلوا في الإسلام وإما أن يدفعوا الجزية وإما أن يقاتلوا. لو كان المسلمون فعلا طبقوا مثل ذلك لما وصلنا والله إلى الذل الذي نصل إليه اليوم.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as someone who's had top secret clearances, worked for a think tank, and seen the kinds of things like, for example, that mosques in America provide approximately 70% of the funding for Islamic terrorists. Now, is that true today? I don't know. I don't have top secret. I'm not operating this broadcast using top secret clearances any longer. But as someone with a master's degree in the subject and having worked for agencies, for example, the CIA, the State Department, the DOD, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Association, and other groups within the government, I'm here to tell you that these kinds of things that you heard this Saudi cleric say are the same types of things that have been said for years, which is why it was not a leap to have what happened to the American people on 9/11 18 years ago. There's no leap to having that event transpire and to the event today or over the weekend of Saudi gunmen killing Americans. You know, I was going through some paperwork and I just remember sharing out in April of this year that an Army veteran who converted to Islam plotted to carry out a bombing in retaliation for attacks in mosques in New Zealand. So here we have in California an Army veteran who converted to Islam arrested because there are scriptures, for example, I'm going to quote this Saudi cleric again. He talks about how in the Quran it says, quote, Allah said that if a man fights the infidels will be unable to prepare to fight the Muslims. By Allah, the infidel countries today, the U.S. and its allies, dare to fight the Muslims, to inflict their corruption on Islam and the Muslims on a daily basis only because they see that the Muslims do not even consider fighting the infidels. So and he talks about the Quranic verses. And again, there's several verses within the Quran as well as the Hadiths that talk about crucifying, burning alive, cutting off hands, cutting off the legs, cutting off the heads of the infidel. So I think it's important to understand that these things will continue to happen until and unless Islam at some point decides to shed itself of taking literally the scriptures within its holy book that call for this kind of killing, mass killing. And I thought it was interesting. I went also to memory. This is a special report number 10, and it's an older report. It dates back to 2002. It came out after 9/11, and it documented some of the key topics that are discussed in the mosques in Saudi Arabia and, of course, in other countries. One of the issues that a majority of sermons discuss with respect to Christians and Jews is that they're the enemy of God. So let's think about it for a moment. If you're the enemy of God, why wouldn't it be correct for a Muslim that's going to a mosque to their service and hears this from a cleric, why doesn't it make sense for him to go out and either have that Christian or Jew or infidel, such as a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Sikh, a non-believer, an atheist, anyone that doesn't embrace Islam, why doesn't it make sense for them to target those individuals? Because it says they're from Christians and Jews and others are from the camp of kuffar. They're an enemy. They're an infidel. It talks about, for example, in this report, that they're pigs, they're apes. Jews are the descendants of pigs and apes. It talks about how it's impossible to make peace with Jews and Christians, and of course only if they submit to Islam, convert to Islam, and pay a tax. It talks about how Muslims have to educate their children to jihad, to hate the infidel. So again, I mean, this is several pages long. Talks about Friday sermons in Saudi mosques, and so we have to think about this. This is an issue. It's not about racism. Try to open up and just think logically for just a moment. It's not about racism to talk about Islam, because Islam is not a race. It's not a show of prejudice to talk about Islam, because, again, Islam isn't about your ethnicity. In fact, Malaysia and Indonesia are not Arab countries, but they are Muslim countries, and they're larger Muslim countries than any Arab country. So it isn't about ethnicity or about race. It's about an ideology, and I think that's what people need to embrace and understand. If we can have a conversation about communism, if we can have a conversation about Nazism, as we have had over the years in America's history, we should be able to have a conversation about Islamism. We certainly have people and professors at colleges and universities across the country talk about Christianity and Catholicism and Protestantism and Judaism. And in fact, we have a situation where we hear report after report after report about how Jerry Corbyn, who's running for the prime ministership of Great Britain, has been rated as the Labour government in Britain, of which he is a leader, has been labeled one of the top anti-Semitic groups in the world today. And of course, Corbyn is known as being an anti-Semite and for saying ridiculously racist comments to the Jewish people. But again, he's not, when you're talking about an ideology and not a people, and when we talk about Islam, we're not talking about, again, race or ethnicity. We're talking about an ideology, which brings me to the point I was just making. Until such time, if ever, that people that embrace Islam begin to say, okay, this is what the Quran says. And I've read the Quran, so I know. I have the pages marked in my Quran. And until Muslims say, okay, well, maybe we're not going to rewrite our holy book, but we need to say to all Muslims worldwide that those passages that literally call for the crucifixion or burning infidels alive or hacking them to death, beheading them, as we've seen for years and years and years since Islam began in the 7th century. I mean, again, this is a historical issue that's been going on for years and years and years and centuries. So this isn't new to the 21st century. It's not new to the last century. It's historic. We saw Hajj Amin al-Husseini. This was the leader of the Muslim world in the Middle East. Go to Germany and meet with Adolf Hitler to talk about genocide against the Jews. Because that's how deep and abiding the hatred was in the Middle East towards the Jewish people. So this is why Muslim nations were complicit in a Holocaust that happened in the Middle East. So again, we're going to have to get to a point where people have enough backbone in this country to stand up and have a discussion about issues related to Muslims who literally embrace the tenets of the Quran that call for murder, and say, okay, are we going to embrace this literally, or are we going to just talk about this as some Muslims do and say, well, this is just symbolic, or this is just purely symbolism about a spiritual jihad that takes place between Jews and Christians and other infidels and Islam. But this is something that people that are followers of Islam have to decide. They have to have this kind of discussion. And until they do, it's going to be a problem for the Western world. And we should be able to talk about it without being silenced. But all the news media outlets are silenced. They're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to have anybody on, even Fox News, they'll talk about. Judge Jeanine Pirro, who's on Fox News, talked about the threat of Islam, and I think she was suspended for like 3 weeks. Her show was suspended on Fox News, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was longer. I don't think so, but I was just horrified that in the United States of America, in which freedom of speech is codified in the First Amendment to the Constitution, we can't have a discussion about this without being called racist. And that's truly sad, that we can't talk about ideologies and problems that exist in ideologies. Anyway, I wanted to end this show on a happier note. You know, the President of the United States spoke to an organization in Miami, Florida, over the weekend. It was the Israeli American Council. It was their national summit. And again, President Trump gave a talk to people that attended this Israeli American Council. And it was a beautiful, there was a beautiful group. What's the name of this group? This group is called the Shalva Band. And the Shalva Band is a very inspiring group. I think most of these young people have Down syndrome. One of the lead singers is blind. But this particular group is renowned. And I want you to see this special needs group, 8 very talented musicians, right after these commercial breaks. It will touch your heart. I want to tell you about this Italian restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugoletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugatti's restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugatti's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugatti's for a great lunch. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugoletti that Denise sent you. Salute. Bon appetito. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Anatay's product, owned and operated by Scott Baker, former Marine Corps officer. Give them a call because, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, this is an organization that can handle your top secret needs for any defense contractor, for any aerospace company. They can handle whatever your hardware needs are. I want you to give them a call, 661-822-6873. Manufacturer of aircraft fasteners and materials, testing laboratory. Again, for those defense companies, aerospace companies, call Anatay's Products. They're the best company to call. Ask for Scott Baker, the president, and call him at 661-822-6873. Ladies and gentlemen, so I want you to hear this. So this group of Israeli special needs band, they perform God Bless America on behalf of those Americans who were there in Miami, Florida, as part of this American-Israeli American Council, their national summit. It was a massive crowd, and it's a one-of-a-kind special moment. Let's listen.
Thank you, Ellen. In every generation, Jewish American patriots have strengthened, sustained, uplifted, and inspired our nation. In a moment, the Shalva Band will conclude this event with a song that we know very well. Before they do, I want to tell the famous story behind it. In 1918, a young Jewish American soldier stationed at Camp Upton in New York wrote a prayer in the form of a song. His name was Irving Berlin, maybe the greatest of them all. And he held that song close to his heart for more than 20 years. He did not release the song until 1938, as the world learned of Hitler's evil atrocities against the Jewish people. On November 10th of that year, his song broadcast through the radio and into the homes all across the country. Millions and millions of people were inspired. It was the first time Americans heard Irving Berlin's timeless hymn, God Bless America. These words became the prayer of our nation, the prayer that traveled to the islands of the Pacific, to the beaches of Normandy, and all the way to Nazi territory where American soldiers opened the gates of concentration camps and liberated Jewish survivors. It's the prayer that Americans sang as we faced down communism and as we came together as one nation after 9/11. It's the prayer that still unites us today, and the hope that burns bright in our hearts because we are proud American patriots. We love this magnificent nation with every ounce of our strength, spirit, and soul. So tonight together, we ask that God bless our military. We ask that God bless our veterans. We ask that God bless our cherished ally, the State of Israel. And with our flag waving high, our people standing tall, and our faith forever strong. We say our prayer once more. God bless America, our home, sweet home. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask the Shalva Band back to the stage for a very, very special performance. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
I thought that was beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted you to see it. How precious. I want to thank the Shalva Band. I think that's fabulous that they sang, and they sang on behalf of the Americans there and the President of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, have a blessed and wonderful evening. We'll be back on Tuesday. Thank you for listening.